And we are back, and this is going to be video number 7, chapter 8, investing from Liberate, your journey to lasting financial independence. And this has a lot of great material. This is kind of nice, those that like to crunch numbers. Now I will just let you know that we're going to go through some math. If you need more help, you can go to barclayroper.com, and there's some help that you can download. More detailed information on how to do these calculations, because we're really going to like dial down, and we've been talking about your FI number and like saving up or accumulating this number for your during the accumulation phase to achieve financial independence. Here we're really dialing in and teaching you how to do that. Okay, so in monetary terms, so what is your FI number? Right, this is that beginning with the destination in mind. In monetary terms, you achieve FI when your passive income meets or exceeds your expenses. Your investment income engine is the source of your passive income. In essence, your FI number is the dollar amount in your investment income engine that you decide is sufficient enough to provide residual income for your living expenses based on the inflation rate and the long-term asset allocation return. Figuring out your expenses or how much you need to spend annually is a massive part of arriving at your FI number. You control your expenses. If you choose to live frugally, your FI number will be smaller, and all else being equal, you will arrive at FI sooner than someone who spends more. Suppose you decide that increasing your spending is more important. In that case, accumulating the necessary investment income engine to support such a lifestyle will take more time, money, or both. Right? That makes sense. All right, it says it right there. That makes sense. The more you want to spend, the larger your investment income engine must be. The larger your investment income engine, all else being equal, the longer it will take to accumulate, or the more you must contribute. It is your choice and your choice only. The good thing is that it is not set in stone. If you decide to change, you can. The important part is that you decide how much you would like to spend to figure out approximately how much money you'll need in your investment income engine to meet your spending needs. Then you can start working toward it. There are different ways to approach this calculation. For brevity, we are exploring one method and one scenario. In reality, you should explore a few methods and scenarios to give you a range of possible outcomes to consider. In this scenario, we'll assume that you need $5,000 before tax per month in today's dollars, and that you want to reach FI in 30 years. We'll also estimate that inflation will average 3%, and your long-term asset allocation return will be between 7 and 8%. So how do we do this? Here are the steps. Step number 1, you annualize your monthly spending and calculate the inflation-adjusted equivalent for your expenditures in 30 years. Thus, $5,000 multiplied by 12 months is $60,000 per year. Okay? $60,000 adjusted for 3% inflation over 30 years is $145,000 and change. That means in 30 years, based on a 3% average inflation rate, you will need $145,635 to purchase what $60,000 can buy today. Isn't that amazing how inflation just erodes at our purchasing power? So to have that equivalent, right? If we have $60,000 today for our annual income that we need to live, 30 years from now at 3% inflation, we're going to need $145,000 approximately. Okay, step 2. Once we figure that out, calculate the inflation-adjusted rate of return. We'll assume that you can get a long-term asset allocation return of 7% during the distribution phase, and that inflation will average 3%. So the real rate of return will be close to the difference between 7 and 3, which is 4. The exact inflation-adjusted return is 3.88%. And you can see how we're calculating that by just taking 1 plus the nominal rate of return, in this case 7%, divided by 1 plus the inflation rate of return, and then subtracting 1 from that. Okay, so now as a side note, I want to explain that during the accumulation phase, the order of the annual returns does not impact the final value of your investment income engine. So that means while you're accumulating this money during your working years, as an example, it doesn't matter how those returns happen, because we know stocks, if you're invested in stocks, some years are going to be positive, some are going to be low single digit returns, some might be double digit returns, some will be negative returns. During the accumulation phase, over this, in this case 30 years or 20 or 10, it doesn't matter how those returns happen. If you have some of the negative ones first and then followed by all positive or just mixed up, that doesn't matter. Okay, so some years will be positive and some years will be negative, but the final account value will be based on your average return. However, during the distribution phase, when you are withdrawing money, the sequence of returns does affect your account value. If you could choose, it is always better to get the best returns first during the distribution phase and the worst returns last while you are receiving payments. That being said, you can't choose the order of annual returns, right? That's out of our control. So you can protect yourself by narrowing the possible range of returns and lowering the portfolio volatility. Therefore, in this scenario, you'll allocate 25% to bonds during the distribution phase, providing you with a 7% long-term weighted average return, improving your chances of income longevity. Okay, we're trying to take out some of that volatility in the distribution phase. Okay, step 3, calculate the size of the income engine. Right, we're still trying to figure out, well, I know I need this investment, I need to save so much, but how much do I need to save? For this example, assume you want an income stream in perpetuity that will increase by the inflation rate of 3% each year. By dividing the inflation-adjusted amount needed in 30 years by the inflation-adjusted return, you determine the approximate size of your investment income engine. In this example, you will divide 145,635, right? That's how much money we'll need in 30 years to buy the same services and products that we can buy today for $60,000. We're going to take that amount and divide it by the inflation-adjusted rate of return, right? We're getting a nominal rate of 7%, but inflation is 3%, and so that's where we're getting this inflation-adjusted return of 3.88%. So by taking 145,000, dividing that by 3.88%, we're going to arrive at an investment income engine of $3,753,480. Okay, and so using this method, this is telling us that that's kind of our end goal, right? To become financially independent based on the parameters that we need to accumulate $3,750,000 in change. There are a few variations of how to arrive at your target investment income engine number, but this method is one of the most conservative and easiest to illustrate. It means that by using a more aggressive method, you could accumulate less than the amount indicated to create your investment income engine and still withdraw the same amount. However, using a more aggressive method means that there won't be as much room for error if you don't achieve your desired return. Okay, so to reiterate, during the distribution phase, an investment income engine of this size, right, of the 3.7 million dollars, will provide an annual income of $145,000, growing at a rate of 3% based on a 7% return. For example, the second, third, and fourth inflation-adjusted withdrawals would be approximately, right, because you're using that inflation-adjusted return of 3.88% in this calculation, every payment after the first one will be 3% higher. Okay, so the second payment would be $150,000, right? You're starting with $145,000. The second payment would be $150,000. The third payment would be $154,000, and the fourth payment would be $159,000, respectively, because you're going to be taking out a little bit more from your investment account your investment income engine every year to keep up with inflation. These annual payment increases will help maintain your standard of living as the price of goods and services rise due to inflation. Step 4, you must determine what amount to invest annually to accumulate an investment income engine of $3.7 million over the next 30 years. Assume a long-term asset allocation return of 8% for the calculation during the accumulation phase. Using time value of money principles and a financial calculator, right? And this is where you can go to barclayroper.com and see the exact buttons you need to press to make this calculation. You find that $33,000 needs to be invested annually for 30 years at 8% to accumulate $3.753 million. Okay, once again, we're changing the interest rate during the accumulation phase and bumping that up 8%. We're assuming that we're going to be all invested in stocks, and it doesn't matter if we get the negative returns at the beginning or end or somewhere mixed in the middle. We're going to end up with an average return of 8%, and that's going to be okay. It's not going to affect our withdrawals. So during the accumulation phase, we're at 8%. During the distribution phase, we're being a little less aggressive and a little bit more conservative by adding 25% bonds to our portfolio, and we're getting a lower return of 7%. Step 5, finally determine the size of the personal income engine required to provide the necessary annual contribution. By taking the yearly contribution amount of $33,134 and dividing it by our desired savings rate of 20%. Remember what you're trying to do, right? When we talked about how much are you going to save? Our goal was to save between 15 and 20% and we want to shoot for that 20% mark. So if we take that $33,000, the amount we need to contribute every year, and we divide it by the percentage that we want to save, in this case 20%, we're going to arrive at, in this case, $165,000. That means that our personal income engine, right, the amount we earn on an annual basis from our employment or self-employment, or a combination of the two, provides us what size of income we need in order to put away 20% of our income on an annual basis. That equals this $33,000 that's required. So that means your personal income engine will need to earn $165,000 per year. This finding reemphasizes the importance of getting enough advanced education to support a sizable annual contribution to your investment income engine, or saving more than 20% of your income. Other options are to earn a higher rate of return, which you have less control over, right? So instead of using 8%, you bump that up to 10% or something like that, which is mostly, which is you have less control over, or work longer. So instead of working 30 years, you work 35 or 40 or something more than that, which is mostly under your control, right? It's mostly under control because it's your choice. However, if you have health problems or something like that, and you can't work anymore, then you're unable to prolong, to stretch that out, okay? For example, if you were only to increase the rate of return to 10%, your personal income engine would decrease to $114,000. So instead of using that 8% return, if you said, well, I think that I can get 10% return, well, then all you would need to do is earn 114% and take 20% of that. Or if you were to extend work for 40 years instead of 30, your personal income engine would decrease to $97,000. So you'd only have to make, so instead, if you want to use 8% as your return, but you want to extend out 10 more years, work 40 years, then you could earn $97,000 and put the 20% away and still reach your goal. If the return was increased to 10% and work extended for 40 years, so we're combining those two together, the personal income engine would decrease to $56,000. So that's how much you'd have to earn on an annual basis. Thus, you would only need to contribute 20% or $11,397 annually instead of $33,000 to achieve your desired inflation-adjusted income stream. Okay. Just a reminder, once again, you can go to barclayroper.com for detailed calculations and download those. Okay, perfect. We're going to stop right there, and then we're going to pick up with forget the news, it doesn't matter for your average returns in the next video. And so thanks for being here with me, and we'll see you shortly.